It's v.h.s.x. What do you mean?
Alright everybody, I found a Reddit post that might be worth discussing today, and this one says, I never understood tunneling, like, am I doing it wrong? So the image shows a pig that's with the caption, it says tunneling, and it says focused on, and then it says one Dwight at the top, and then obviously then it has like so like, you know, plus, and then the focused on from 3 other Dwights. And there's actually another image on the side. So a couple of different things that we kind of have to explain here. And I'm gonna break it down because I know there might be like new people that want to know why, or maybe people need an explanation. So there's some stuff here that says enduring, which it's endurance. Enduring makes it require 2 hits to down. It says also is 10% faster, 20% perk, may require 3 to 4 of dead hard or DS. And they're trying to imply with this image that because you're focusing on one survivor, 3 others are going to be focusing on the gens. And then it has another one where it says not tunneling. You're focused on 2 hits. Perks can grant 3rd hit if already hooked. Then they're trying to say, oh, but the other person is focused on healing, and then the other person is focused on the gen. So let's try to break this down real simple, like, okay? The reason that we killer players engage in a strategy that people love to popularize and call tunneling, I like to say pursuing the same target, or in other words, utilizing a strategy to eliminate pressure, you know, from the 4 to the 3, because with 3 it's easier to manage. Because when we used even their own example, right, notice that in this image there's 3 people, somebody's crossed off, right? So if we use the same image, that means that while we're focused on the one person after the 4th person is dead, there's going to be 3 other people. So one will have to be on the gen, another person will have to be potentially on another gen or the same gen, and then the 3rd person will have to be in chase, which directly reduces the amount of gen progression. It also directly reduces the amount of pressure that can be applied. How does that work? There's different killers that have different counters. So for example, we can look at singularity. If there are 4 people and say you have, let's say, 2 people hit with the bubble gum poo shit, a 3rd person can run around holding an EMP, waiting for you to down somebody or get close to downing somebody or teleporting to somebody, and just EMP everybody, while the other 4th person is still on the gen. So you could say have 2 or 3 on a gen, this variable, it could be 2 or 3. You could be chasing one, there's a 4th person that's going to be on the side with an EMP that can disable that. Say that they were eliminated from the match, they don't have that capability. Or let's say, for example, you're chasing somebody, the other one's injured, the other one's on a gen, that other person can't be healed by the person healing. For example, if you're leaving them on the ground for any reason, that 4th person will not be able to pick them up as quickly, leaving the 3rd person to have to do it. So in other words, by eliminating the 4th player from the equation, it allows you to buy more time, because I understand that a lot of the beginners don't really understand like why the strategies are being used, what are they trying to do here. And the fact of the matter is that it's time management. Healing is not that slow. Like, they already increased its speed, they've already increased the effectiveness of a bunch of healing perks. A lot of these perks are brought every match. We'll make it as a free perk that everybody can use. You don't have to own any survivor. It is literally a general perk that people can just apply. If you unhook, you get 100% healing speed for free. Claudette is a free survivor. Level her up to like literally just level 1, right? Prestige 1 or whatever. You'll get Botany. And what is that? 50 increased healing speed. No downsides like it used to have. They've already nerfed that. Or rather, they buffed it, I should say. It took off the inefficiency with medkits. So they're just getting a flat 50% healing speed. You have another perk that gives you healing speed. You have a Jill perk from Resident Evil that gives you an additional 70% healing progression off of Hook. You already have the Yoichi's perk that gives you 30%. You have Desperate Measures giving you more healing speed. You have this other perk giving you healing speed. You have the medkits that give you healing speed. So all of these things can apply. They just give healing speed. Healing is not even a thing anymore because of that factor, because of those things in play. So the fact of the matter is that you focusing somebody out will allow you to then eliminate one and then have one person in chase and 2 on gens compared to 3 on gens. Which also means you have one less person that can disable your ability, reveal you on Ghostface, disable your traps, disable your drone, disable your goo effect on Singularity, or whatever it may be. Whatever character that you can think of, like Wesker with using sprays or whatever it may be. Every character has something that counters them. So, say for example, if you're on Dredge, they're not going to be able to lock the lockers as quickly because there'll be one less person that can run around the map and do that. Or one less person that can find a med kit and heal someone faster. Or one less person that can do X, Y, and Z. Ultimately, like what it boils down to is the fact that you're trying to remove the pressure from the equation. Because what people are misunderstanding is that healing is not a thing anymore. Healing, it doesn't matter if they're healing for like 2 seconds. That's still not going to be enough pressure. That's only 2 seconds you have compared to the rapid pace of the gens, which you have no control over at this point. The fact that if you're deciding to play Pig, for example, you already have no mobility. You already struggle to get downs. Your head traps are not the most effective slowdown whatsoever. They pretty much do nothing at that point because of the luck around it. The RNG also can come into play. You're better off going after the same person with the head trap. So if you're forced into not being able to chase them, that head trap is still active. That there is still pressure being applied. But at the end of the day, those characters need to do those things. Being the lowest tiers. It's very basic and very simple. The problem is that within the community, they try to gaslight you into thinking that you're not allowed to play strategically. Yet Survivor players can play as strategically as they'd like, and they're not being frowned upon. They're not being chewed out for any reason at all by any other Survivor players for using the same exact type of strategies. For example, they have different techs, they call them techs, that a lot of the time are exploits of the game's mechanics that allow for unfair advantages. Stuff like the shift tech in Shack allows for you to never block the window. Just because people don't know about it doesn't mean it's not there and doesn't mean it's not broken. That's already one example. You can also talk about when they can emote and cancel their falling down animation so they can fall perfectly under pallets. When if you ever see them pointing as they're taking a hit, they're trying to fall under the pallet specifically so that they can get a free save. We can also talk about the tech where they can sit there and cancel out your input so that you, as we all know, the CJ tech, and that also applies to lockers in some cases. They jump out so that if somebody's laying on the ground in front of it, they can just jump out and try to blind you. There are different things, and then these things are only effective against the lower tier, lower tiers, but also like the more beginner killer players. So that in itself is literally exploiting the fact that these people don't know what the hell they're doing, especially on the killer sides, stuff like that. So it's really interesting. It's an interesting concept. I still don't understand why it's so common. I still don't understand why it's so prevalent, but it's a thing. And I don't get it. I don't understand it, but it is a thing. Okay? But let's go ahead and look at some of these responses. So one person says, if you turn it from the start versus solo queue, the game is basically over before it started. From a Survivor POV, it's like, what's the point? The game is already over. Let's just go next. Swift is a different story. I don't think most players complain about late game tunneling. Fair game at that point. Now I have to disagree with certain parts of it. Just because somebody's being quote unquote tunneled from the start in a solo queue game does not necessarily mean that it is the game is already over, right? It just isn't. It depends on who's being chased. Now, time and time again, when it comes down to solo queue, and people love to blame the game because of solo queue, and it's like, no, it's not the game's fucking fault. You decided to go into a game with no teammates. That's you. That's not the game's fault. A lot of people that just load up the game don't know what the hell they're doing regardless. That is the fault of the player. That is not the fault of the game. The game did not tell you to play by yourself. That's already just a choice that you're making to do that. And we've had a couple of, quote, we'll say geniuses with heavy quotations that like to say, oh, but if you're already saying that you don't like Swift as a killer player, then why are you saying that you should play in a Swift? Because if it's there, you can use it. At the end of the day, it's still the game. I may not like that it's there, but at the end of the day, you can still have the freedom to do that. That has nothing to do with what I think is in there. Now, do I think that they should make balance adjustments around Swift? Of course. And Swift in general just makes the Survivor experience just a smidge more interesting, because you at least have a teamwork going on, maybe strategize. It's way more interesting because the Survivor side already is not very interesting. Let's continue. So they say competitive, high-skilled Swift. Not every Swift is there to be ultra efficient. A lot of them are just chatting and chilling, which is a bit of a misconception. You would really be surprised, you know, just by even mentioning the fact that somebody has a perk is already providing a gigantic advantage. Being able to even mention that a perk is active, where he is at some point, just in passing, is providing a gigantic advantage. Because somebody can be chatting and go, oh yeah, wait, where's the killer again? Or, oh, he's chasing me. So no, that's not entirely like the accurate. Like we have to really be so for real. People can still choose to say whatever the hell they want in the middle of a voice chat. They could be chatting and chilling, ooh, but doesn't mean they're playing comp. But they even just a call out of he has bamboozle can completely change the name of the game and allow for that perk to be invalidated from the very beginning of the game. So this person makes a good point. They say it's not about what's happening during the tunnel, it's what you get rewarded with after it. But only 3 survivors left. Hooking 1 makes it so 2 has succumbed for unhooking, leaving only number 3 available to do gens. 2 starts healing number 1. Killer rotates and finds 3. Now nobody's doing a gen. That 4th person is a major deal, which is exactly what I was trying to explain a bit earlier in the video. And it's a good point. It's an important thing, a distinction to make. So I thought I'd go ahead and read this next one too. It says, this is the correct answer. To add another thing, you overwhelm the remaining 3 with anti-gen. 3 pain resonance tokens against 3 survivors is way too much. It's going to make them sink harder and harder. Which is not entirely accurate. Like I've constantly said. People say this as if it were on paper, and then that's the problem. We're not taking into account what actually occurs in these matches. So pain res can easily be used across the board, whether accidentally or not even at all, because of the RNG aspect of it. You have to hope that the hook is right by you. It's not like you could just pop a pain res whenever you like. These survivors could easily run into areas that are not good for you. Maybe all the pain res are on one side of the map. It literally doesn't mean anything, like at that point, because you can't really use it. So the overarching discussion that also comes into play with this is the fact that when you look at posts like this, there is like probably hundreds of posts talking about tunneling, when at the end of the day, it's still a skill issue on the person being tunneled. If you can't hold your own, or hold your own long enough for your team to gain an advantage, then that is a skill issue. If your teammates are not gaining an advantage from you giving them the advantage, that is their skill issue. At the very end of the day, it's really basing it, it's sort of like the killer's choosing you and spotlighting you and saying, hey, can you handle this chase? Can you handle this? And how long can you last? Because I'm going for this play. How long can you waste my time? And say you were horrible at the chase, and they go, hey, I can just knock this guy down pretty fast and gain an advantage. That's ultimately what it is. And if you're able to hold your own, then you can't even be tunneled, because they're going to either spend the whole time trying to chase you, and then they're going to keep messing up, failing, and then they'll end up getting what, 1 kill on you, and then the 3 go out. Or you can either say buy him as much time as you can and then leave them with 1 to 2 gens to go. He's forced to have to chase somebody else, and he maybe walks out with either either he walks out with maybe 2 kills, he could walk out with 1. It really just depends on the skill level of the players. And then people of course want to bring up solo queue. like I keep saying, that is a choice that you're making. If you're deciding to queue into a boring ass side that is based around teamwork by yourself, that's kind of you. You don't have to do that. You can either play a different game. You can try to find people that also want to team up and go into matches and stuff like that. There are plenty of ways to find people to do that. It's not necessarily like you have to go alone. It's just how it is. As much as people like to pretend that it's the most common thing, it's not. So let's go ahead and take a look here. They say sweatiest killers are being 4 gen slowdowns, stun a 1 out, choke the game at 1 to 2. That's not entirely accurate. It really is dependent on the actual killer itself, the player experience of the survivors, experience of the killer, but they never want to bring that nuance in because that means they have to face that they're bad at the game. And of course they can't do that. They can't fathom the concept that they're actually just bad at the goddamn game. That's way too difficult for them to do. And it's okay to be bad at the fucking game as long as you understand that and fully accept that, hey, not every game is going to be a win. If you're truly trying to be a casual, then you'll just be there for the experience of running from a killer, trying to like take in the horror and the sights and go and like kind of experiencing what the game has to offer, more so than just going, oh, I have to win. You don't have to do that. Especially if you're playing on Survivor, especially if you're playing on Killer, especially because it's so stacked against you as a Killer player at that point. So let's see. So this person says tunneling is focused on one specific player in an attempt to take them out permanently faster. Which I don't really think that is grammatically correct. I'm not sure. So they say you can do so purposefully or accidentally, and while a strong technique, it has its flaws, namely, which I wouldn't say that because they say it's considered bad sportsmanship, which I wouldn't say that that's a flaw. I think that's just kind of a nothing burger. I don't think that anybody should be concerned with sportsmanship, considering the fact that Survivor players are not concerned with sportsmanship for the killer. They will consistently sit there in the exit gate, waste your time, wait out the entire timer, and then their only response is, oh, why don't you just hit us out of the gate? People don't want to sit there and see the BM, right? So that's already just hilarious. Like, it's a double standard. Like, it's killers having bad sportsmanship for playing a certain way, but yet when survivors are emoting to fall under pallets perfectly, going to the corners of the map to get downed, using all these crazy perks that they know are broken, or the new exploit that comes out that, like, you know, tomorrow type beat, you know what I'm saying? Because there's always some exploit that survivors get. Like, a good example was like when they were invincible, getting like clipping into lockers. The only characters that could hit them, I think, was like Pyramid Head and maybe something else. So I don't think sportsmanship is even worth even having in the conversation, because not a single person in the community cares about that. They only care about it because, oh, you specifically targeted me. Like, okay, congratulations. They say that it puts all your focus into one person, thus distracting you from other objectives. But there is no other objective. I think that's another common misconception. You specifically are trying to kill them. What other objective do you have on a killer? Like, your job is to kill. It literally says it in the name, killer. I don't know what else there is to say. There's no other objective. Okay, cool, prevent the gen. Yeah, you do that by killing them. Like, it's not that difficult to understand that. So this person, you know, and then this is the thing that when they bring up this type of conversation, it's all about feelings. It's never about like trying to understand how the game is played. So as you can see here, they say, I don't mind strategic tunneling, but being tunneled off hook at 5 is incredibly infuriating and makes me not want to bring BP offers because I'm wasting them on a selfish player. Haha. That's what I'm saying. Never is it, okay, that makes sense. Like that they're trying to eliminate a survivor to try to make their own match easier, regardless of what it is. And the other misconception, which I think is really hilarious, is that people will fixate on the number on the next to the little gen symbol. But it's like when you're playing as the killer, and even as a survivor, when you're looking at the circles fill up, which of course they never look at the HUD, because why would they? But as the killer player, you're walking past like a gen 90, like booming, walk past another gen booming, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna have to get somebody out of here. While it says 5, the gens are 99, so you're actually at 3, or you're actually at 2, because you're hearing the gens super loud, they're booming. And then they go, oh my god, I'm being tunneled at 5, and it's like, yeah, but in actuality, there's only 3 gens to go. if they were to just finish popping the 2 that they just finished, like, or 99 rather. So, and then, you know, as you can see, it devolves into, oh, but, you know, they're playing like an ass, you know, they're playing like an ass, yo. Like, it's all about feelings and never about logic when it comes down to discussions about how the game functions. It doesn't matter how it makes you feel at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, it's still a video game. You can still choose to not play the game. You can still choose to look at the perspective differently when you play this game. The game is already stacked against the killers. You're already getting a bunch of bonuses for Survivor. Enjoy. Like, just don't be mad when people don't play. Like, at the end of the day. So it is what it is. Now, I understand that because a lot of people are not playing against competent players. I understand that not a lot of people are trying to understand the game better, or trying to improve, or trying to which is ironic because they say they love the game, yet they choose not to learn anything about it, which makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense. I don't really get the logic. I don't really understand it. It makes no sense to me. Because if you love a game, wouldn't you want to learn more about it? Like, isn't that kind of coming with the territory when you play something that you tend to improve? Whether it be a game, whether it be some like activity that you're doing, don't you inevitably improve at it every time you decide to engage with that activity? So why is it that these people can load up this game, play all the time, and never improve? I still don't understand that. It just doesn't make any sense. So this person says something is objectively the best strategy for killers, which I think people are not explaining it well, because the OP says I'm kind of struggling to understand how when 3 other survivors can do gens. Though I guess that can only happen with the Swift. Yeah, people are not really are not explaining it well. This person is kind of explaining it relatively decently. They say the strategy is to tunnel out the person that doesn't last long in chase. Once they're out, it's 1v3. Now your scenario, as soon as one of those 3 is on hook and the next one's being chased, the third one literally can't do a gen. They have to save and reset. Even if only 1 or 2 gens left, being in a 1v3 makes it more likely that you'll win. Which is a good point. So that's a pretty good understanding. So, and this other person makes a good point as well. This is exactly what I was saying. They say tunneling is very much a trade-off. If you tunnel a survivor who is good at the game, has anti-tunnel, is helped against tunneling by his teammates, then that's a massive loss of pressure. However, if you tunnel a survivor who doesn't have these factors, you get a survivor who starts the chase with 1 less health state, is more than likely starting a chase with an area with fewer pallets, and is starting a chase closer to you, and is going to die sooner. So I'm glad at least one person is able to kind of explain it a little bit better than what we were seeing, because it's not that hard to understand. If your entire job as a killer is to kill, and by eliminating somebody that can counteract all your power just by the sheer existence, that's pretty much all you really need to know. It's not that complicated. It's not that hard to understand. You want to be able to eliminate somebody from applying pressure. Like I've said, when it has to do with killer powers, for example, that eliminates somebody from being able to interact with your EMPs on Singularity, your sprays on Wesker, revealing you on Ghostface, removing your drones on Skull Merchant, Hag as well, Trapper, you know, you name it. Whatever character has some kind of counteractive that is applicable to the survivor, which is pretty much all of them, then it allows you to use your power more effectively and allow it to last longer. It even applies to perks as well. Even Trail of Torment is a good example. Like, say you're focusing on one person while there's 2 other people alive, then that would mean that somebody's going to have to get off of whatever they're doing to get rid of that Trail of Torment, which allows you potentially to have more time with Trail of Torment than you would with 4 people, because then they'd go that one extra person can look at the HUD and go, okay, 2 people are on gens, that one's being chased, I could just run around and just like do extra stuff, like, you know, disable his power, or disable this thing, or pull out a med kit and grab that, or heal this person, or do that, or pick up this pallet, or whatever perk they have active, so, or heal, or whatever it may be. So that it's really not that complicated. I think people are over complicating the metric of it, or whatever have you, and we've even discussed this previously with other other creators that were trying to claim like tunneling doesn't make sense, and yet they fundamentally misunderstood the entirety of how the game functions. What a shock. The DBD community in a nutshell. But anyway, I want to go ahead and leave it for you guys, so let me know what you think in the comment section. Also, consider becoming a member on YouTube or Patreon, subbing on Twitch. You can also check out the other channels, because we got Video Essay channel, we got a Marvel Rivals channel, because we're not going to be continuing doing DBD Slap. So let me know your thoughts. Check out those channels, man. See you guys in the next one. All right, let's go ahead and read off these wonderful members. We got Patreon, Crow Vader. All my YouTube members, Brando, Evil Blade, Cap Courteous, WTF You're Not J-Lo, Evil Peach, Hargan Falcon, Dole Whip, Noxus, Zero Mocker, Jack, Christian, and Crow Vader. Really appreciate you guys supporting, man. And if you also subbed on Twitch, just know that you got love coming your way too. Appreciate you guys, man.